I didn't win my first 2 times. It wasn't until I got hit in the face with the results of not making into the semifinals, into top 6, where I thought the whole time I was leading and jumping into a situation where I had an opportunity to compete for an international title.
Welcome back to the What Went Wrong podcast. My name is Tabitha Thorell, and today I have a very, very special guest. Now, I know I say that all the time because all my guests are special to me, but this woman, Jennifer Lloyd, guys, get this, buckle your seatbelts here. She is Miss Queen of the World. Yes, I didn't even know that was a title. And you're all thinking, what? Yes, she is Miss, I can't even believe I booked her, guys. Like, come on. Miss Queen of the World is in the house. And we all know, like, we see these pageants, we see these titles, but guys, we all know that she did not start there. And so I am so excited to dive into the story, and I know you are too. So Jennifer, welcome to the podcast, and tell us what went wrong.
Hey, Tabitha. Well, I have to make a correction here. I'm actually Mrs. Queen of the World.
Oh, see, I already got your title wrong.
I'm glad you asked because that's part of my story. And I'm going to tell you what went wrong. I have been a professional stay-at-home mom pretty much my whole entire life. I moved from Asia to the United States when I was 18 years old. My parents are very Asian, so culturally, I was bound to some limitations. I had a limited mindset, and I never dated. And so I jumped quickly into getting married and having children right away. I never had the chance to explore anything, but I thought, you know what? I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to raise my kids really well. And during this whole process, I have never really discovered who I truly was, what my talents were, what my gifts were. I did complete a 4-year college degree while having 2 kids. And in the meantime, just trying to discover ways where I could still be active in my community, feel good about myself, push myself out of my comfort zone. And what it really came down to was a very low self-esteem and a low self-worth, because I based my opinion about who I was on what other people thought of me as. And oftentimes, as a young mother, you'll hear comments such as, "Oh, you don't work? Oh, what else do you do? What do you mean what I'm doing? I'm taking care of kids all day. It's a full-time job, right?"
Yes.
And I remember getting involved in politics because I thought, you know what? Once I get that title, once I become somebody, then I'm going to have a greater sense of authority as well as confidence. And while I was serving as an elected official, not only did I dislike my role, I felt so obligated to hide truly who I was. I could not be flamboyant with the way I looked. I had to shop differently. I had to act differently. And it wasn't until I lost my election. I was out there on the streets with my boots strapped, with signs up. My family's helping me put signs up saying, "Vote for me, vote for me." And the community did not vote for me. And I felt like such a tremendous failure. But what I realized through that, it wasn't meant for me. That wasn't a good fit for me, not at all. And it took me to feel that failure and that sense of shame within myself, which was a false label that I gave myself. And I said, you know what? I got to change something about this situation. And it was because of COVID, during the pandemic, during March of 2020, I sat in my house. My family was stuck in this room with me. And I'm like, you know what? I've always been interested in doing photography. Never owned a professional camera in my life. I have done makeup artistry as a freelancer, never really putting any business behind it. I decided, you know what? I'm going to do something for myself. And it was because of that situation, because of the hurt, because of the want of wanting something different, that I invested in the most expensive camera, the most expensive lenses. Even when my husband was questioning me, he was like, "Hey, you know what? That's really expensive," because it is. You're investing. It's like buying a house. And I had a girlfriend who was a photographer, and she said, "How many guns do your husband own? Okay, how much does that cost?" You know? And I had to compare that to a hobby, because when you're a woman trying to enter into a new industry or invest, sometimes people look at you and question you, and that can even be the people who are closest to you, right? And it was because of that pressure that I kept wanting to discover really, truly how I could push myself further. A lot of hours on YouTube University. It was free. I made a ton of mistakes. I
Yep.
spent hours and hours over editing, trying to figure out how to make my photos look great, how to create the best lighting.
Uh-huh.
Failed. Every single time I compared my work to somebody else. And it wasn't until I put in hours and hours and kept trying. And even when I looked at my images, I wasn't really satisfied. There came a point where I became satisfied, right?
Yep.
You're always chasing something big. And it was through that experience, of that entrepreneurial experience, where I gained my confidence. I realized that, you know what, there is more to me outside of just, being a professional stay at home mom. I could do both things. I
Yep.
balanced being a business owner and a mother. And then I pushed myself into this crazy world of pageantry. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get on this stage and prove to these judges that I am very capable of leading. I didn't win my first two times. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I got hit in the face with the results of not making into the semifinals, into top six, where I thought the whole time I was leading, and jumping into a situation where I had an opportunity to compete for an international title. And I had people question me again, like, why would you do this? But for me, it was like, you know what? I have to do this for myself. I'm doing this for the younger Jennifer, who didn't stand up for the things that she wanted, who didn't have an option when she was a child. So
Yep.
I did this for me, and it ended up well. And I'm so excited to be in this position, because not only am I using my voice to create change, but I'm working with organizations such as Dress for Success. I'm one of their advocates, and I'm helping
Mm.
young entrepreneurial women become more financially independent. And I'm also speaking about confidence, because I think truly the only way you can create confidence is through actionable risk. And it's through that actionable
Yep.
risk that creates real confidence. And so that was what went wrong.
Well, thank you. Yes, so much for sharing. Did you know the number one way to build wealth is through real estate? Have you always wanted to buy your first income property, but you didn't know where to start? Join my group, Legacy Wealth Builders, where we will teach you how to buy your first income property and then keep your wealth by teaching the success and wealth principles to your kids. Because it's not just about building your wealth, but it's about keeping it for generations to come. So click the link, join our group, because for the month of June, the group is free. So get all the training you need and join the group now. And I think when you put yourself out there, whether it's for the pageant or whether it's for an election, when you're asking other people and you're
Mhm.
saying, pick me, and they don't, I think
Mhm.
we all have that feeling of when you're on the PE court and you have the captains picking the people
Right.
and you want to say pick me and you're the last to be picked, or you weren't the best one and so you weren't the first to be picked, whatever. That those feelings are real, and especially in an election, because you really do have to promote yourself. And I think women, we have this insecurity. We want to be liked, we want to people please, we're nurturers, we
Mhm.
most women, we like people and surrounding ourselves, and we want to feel the joy. And when we have to say pick me and they don't, then we question, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not thin enough, I guess the other person has more than me. And that's a lie.
It is a
And
lie, and it really attacks your self-worth. And it doesn't just happen in
yes.
industries like with politics or pageantry. It happens in
Yeah.
professional industries
Oh
as well,
yes.
where women are striving to be seen and to be heard, and for their work to be valued. And it's so important for a woman to truly feel worthy within herself and have that
Yep.
confidence about herself, regardless of what people are thinking, right? And I
Yes.
teach women every single time I work with them, whether that's hair and makeup or do photography. Because I'm going to tell you what, Tabitha, if I put a camera in your face, you know, and I'm just like, smile, Tabitha, okay, give me another pose, work it. Women always get kind of confused, and they get nervous because
Yeah.
it's permanent.
What
They
do
think
I
it's
do? I
permanent.
don't know. How do you
Right,
want me to
exactly.
smile?
It's a
I got to do
confidence issue.
this.
Exactly. So I'm always teaching women that, you know what, you are worthy. You were created to do great things. And it's just that
Yes.
encouragement that really gives them the power. And so now I'm in a position where I had failed. I was slapped in the face. I was hurt. I was embarrassed
Yep.
by my community. I felt like everybody hated me.
Yep.
And here I am today. It's like I was given the tools because now I'm able to really encourage women and
Yes.
share with them that it is okay to feel hurt and fail. You can get back up. You just get back and you keep grinding even harder.
So you said you did two pageants and you didn't make the semifinal, you didn't win.
Yes.
Were you determined, like, I'm going to do this until I win? Or were you just like, I'm going to give it one more shot? Like, what was your mindset? Because I think what
Yes.
our intention when we go into something can really drive us or detour us, whether that's in a business, a pageant, an election. So, what was your mindset going into that pageant?
So growing up as a child, I grew up on government subsidies because my parents were very poor. They were
Mhm.
immigrants. And
Yeah.
so I always grew up with scarcity. So for me, it's like
Yep.
I take nothing and make it into something. So when I go hard for something, I really go all in, like balls to
Uh-huh.
the wall. I go hard. And that
Yep.
was my intention going into a pageant because I knew exactly what they were looking for. So I tried my best to project that in every single
Yep.
aspect, whether I was interview, my wardrobe, your social media requirements, and my partnerships as well. But you're trying to impress people, okay? And
Yep.
people are biased, right? Your boss is
Yep.
biased, coworkers be biased, judges
Yep.
can be biased, right? So it you really have to take that into consideration, that other people's opinion, it shouldn't dictate who you are or truly like where you're going to be, right? So when I went in and when I didn't place where I wanted to place, I had to recognize that, you know what, either I sit here and cry and feel sorry for myself, or
Yep.
what do I do about it, right?
Yep.
But actually what doesn't kill you really does make you stronger, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the funny thing is that I had people who tried to break me down, right? Because in this industry, it's a small industry. People are very loyal to certain organizations and
Yep.
they don't like you talking to somebody else and all
Yep.
this nonsense. Okay.
Yep.
But in all truthfulness, here it's a business, right? You're
Yep.
entitled to spend your money however you want to spend. So I try to encourage girls now, like, hey, there's a whole lot of different systems out there. Feel free to put your money where you want to put it. No one's going to
Yep.
tell you who you can talk to, what you can do, or dictate how you spend your time as a title holder. So I felt really good about jumping into a new organization. I'm so glad I did, Tabitha, because not
Yeah.
only have I been on a world tour, I've been on media, I'm flying to Korea, and I will be interviewed by Sure Magazine. And then I'm flying to Manila, Philippines, where I'm going to be walking the runway. I'm 46 years old. I have six
That
kids, okay? Like,
that is
things
incredible.
wouldn't be this way if I did not go through what I had to go through. I went through a lot of disappointments, and I was trying to figure out my life for how many years? Again, a
Right.
professional stay at home mom who's constantly transitioning, trying to figure out how I fit. Where did I fit? Where can I use my talents, my gifts? And it wasn't until I made a decision to become an entrepreneur, take the risk, right?
Yes.
Be publicly humiliated and fail to the point where, you know what, I'm at a point now where I feel very good about where I'm at, and I can help other women along the way.
That's awesome. I mean, Jennifer, holy cow. I mean, 46, six kids, that's amazing in of itself. And I mean, you're this celebrity
Mm.
photographer, which I don't even think you really touched on. You're doing these pageants, you're doing this stuff. Did you feel like that gave you more purpose, or how did that entangle into your being a professional stay-at-home mom? Because I think some people feel like they have to have the title to feel significant, they have to do the thing, but also I think we are wired to use our giftings too, and so it's
Right.
not necessarily just about the title, but it's about fulfilling what's in your heart. And that might be a title, that might be a career, but it could be philanthropy work, it could be creating a nonprofit, whatever that is. And so, like, our audience, we know that you failed at the election. We know that the pageant,
Mhm.
you get told no, and it's gut wrenching if you've ever been on stage. And I don't know if you had to do bikini, but anybody that has to be judged on anything when you're told that it's not is can be frustrating. And I'm sure in your entrepreneurial journey, it was not just easy peasy as well. But how did this, where you are today, kind of tie everything together so you felt like the whole Jennifer was being
Mhm.
fulfilled and put out in the world?
Tabitha, all of us have little girl dreams. And I remember as a
Yep.
little girl, I would look at Vogue magazine, Elle magazines, and I would tear out these tear sheets, plaster them all over my walls. and dream about one day being on a runway, being a part of production. And I never left those dreams. And I think when you are given those dreams, there's something that lights up inside of you. So every
Yep.
single time I'm working in production, I don't ever get tired. It actually gets me excited. And so what
Yeah.
I like to talk about that light. Like if you feel that light in front of you, like when you're talking, Tabitha, I could tell you have a lot of light. You love what you're
Yep.
doing. And the same
Yes.
with me. It's like I love what I do. And the production piece is just a small portion of my life's mission and my life's purpose.
Mhm.
I'm very much so involved with philanthropy. I work with a partner called Tomo Bottle, where we provide clean water and access to people around the world, as well as initiatives like working with a nonprofit in Quintana Roo,
Mhm.
Mexico. My family has started a 501c. We started that 7 years ago, where when I was working for the school districts, I noticed that there was disparities with homeless kids as well as minorities. And so we provided free lunch services to the community members that wasn't able to have lunch during the summertime, right? Because school is
Mm.
closed.
Yep.
So I notice these things. It doesn't change who I am. The pageant title is fabulous because it provides me a vast amount of opportunities. Otherwise,
Yes.
it would be a little bit more difficult and challenging to get to. When people hear, "Oh my gosh, she's Mrs. Queen of the World," hello, like who is this woman? What can she do? How can she help
Right.
promote us? My work is not about me most of the time. It's about serving others, right? So I
Yeah.
try to use what I have. So that's my gifts, my talents, my title, my time, right? My resources to try
Yep.
to improve and also add to an organization and their mission and their vision. So that's truly my purpose, right? Like, and that fulfills me. And I talk about this a lot about my trauma because I have been through counseling before, but there's not enough counseling to handle the trauma that I felt as a child, right? Just feeling like you're limited on opportunities, and at no fault to my parents, they did their very best being immigrants. Um, but I learned now, like as a mother, and I have 5 daughters, that I will never let them have a limited mindset. Like I want them to believe that they are very capable of being a business owner, or if they
Mm.
choose a profession that's more passion oriented, that's their pathway. Not everybody has to go to a 4 year college. There
Right.
are right career technical education programs that are just as profitable and a great career, right? So
Yep.
there are options, and I just think it's so important for young women leaders to know that, and it's important that we as parents share that with our kids, because the last thing you want to do is have a kid who's traumatized, right? And then they don't use that trauma in the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
We are kindred spirits. You have 5
Yeah.
daughters. I have 5 daughters.
Oh
It's,
my gosh.
yes.
You get it.
Yes.
Yes,
And
you get it.
whether you have, yes, whether you have sons or daughters, it's like you have to teach them the opportunities. Here's the reality. Everybody experiences trauma because everybody filters through a different. I mean, my daughter last night, she's 3, she came running in her room because she was scared of the dark. Now that could have traumatized her, and when she's 30 she might be going to counseling because she's afraid of the dark still. I don't know, but we all have trauma. Some is more intense than others, and yes, like if you were abused or there's a vast of trauma, but it's how we internalize it. And so I think teaching our kids to source that out, and it seems like you have addressed it, you haven't swept it under the rug, and you're using it as fuel, as saying, you know what,
Mhm.
I came from this, but look at where I'm at now. And I
Mhm.
may be on the mountaintop, but there's going to be another trench, and I know
Right.
I can do it because of everything that has built my character to this point.
Right. There is trauma that I think a lot of women don't recognize, and it's
Hmm.
not very obvious. It's when a mother is not taking care of herself and she is not
Yeah.
putting herself first. And that child will see how she values herself, whether she looks at herself with disappointment,
Yep.
whether she's insecure about her body being on the pool, or
Yep.
maybe she's just shaming herself and not thinking that she's beautiful. And that trauma really does affect a young girl because she picks up those habits. She
Yep.
believes exactly what she sees. So it's so
Yep.
important for mothers to share with their daughters that, you know what, you're beautiful just the way you are. And to really, you have to be authentically embracing yourself, your beauty, and all your flaws. I mean, having a lot of kids is a lot of work on that body. So you have to appreciate everything, every flaw that you do have.
Yep.
Yes. Hmm.
And you're being a photographer, I got to say
Yes.
this, but a lot of people, I see this, women, especially
Yes.
my friends that are listening to this, we go to get the camera and the women are like, "Oh, don't take a picture of me. Oh, I don't want to be in this."
Yes.
And I lost my mom when in 2015. And I tell my friends, I said, "You might not want to be in the picture, but if your kids have to bury you and they want to find pictures
Mm.
of you and you are not in them, you are
Mm.
doing a disservice to them because they think you're beautiful. Your flaws
Oh,
don't matter. When they are crying over your loss, they don't care that you had a crooked nose, you had some stretch marks, maybe you had a pudge here, or you didn't feel the most beautiful. They want to look at their mom. And
mhm.
so get in the picture, ladies. I always tell my husband, I'm like, get your camera out, take a picture of me and the girls. Not because I'm vain and I want to look at all my pictures, because my girls and my grandkids and my great grandkids, I want them to know me. And
Mhm.
let's face it, we are our best selves right now because we're only getting older. And when I'm 80,
Exactly.
I'm going to be my best self and I'm going to have wrinkles and I don't care. And I want to be in them because I want them to know me. And these are who you are. So, women out there, get your camera out, take the selfie, have your husband take it,
Right.
position yourself the way that you feel like you look good. If you think it's this way, if you think, put your hands on your hips, whatever, put some
Yes.
lipstick on, put the shirt on you like, whatever you feel beautiful in, but take the picture. I feel like we could
Right.
do a whole class on that because moms, the daughters need you to be confident so that we have
Mhm.
confident leaders to help steer our country in the right direction, ladies. Men have steered it not in always the right direction. So we have to, but I'll get off my soapbox on that.
Yeah,
But
no, it's so
since
right. You're absolutely right. Like culturally, in the Asian culture, especially, we are taught to be meek. You don't ask questions. You're not out there flaunting your stuff. I'm totally going against all the grain, right? I'm
Yep.
more Americanized. I get it. My parents had to put up with it. I think they appreciate and they value me now more than ever
Yeah.
because they see how hard I've worked. But for a lot of women, it's still that way. Like they feel like they're limited in their mindset, right? So it's so important that you just break out of that because you know what? Now is the time to be authentic. We're living in a time frame right now where you have the ability to be truly who you are. You just have to step outside and truly believe that about yourself.
Yes.
And I work with women of all ages. When I work with especially a woman who is of a beautiful age, for instance, it's amazing how she's accomplished and how many kids she's had and what
Yep.
she's been able to create as far as her wealth and her health, and yet she still is lacking confidence. She lacks that belief in herself, and it's like we can't be in that mindset anymore, and when you're free knowing that you
Yeah.
are valuable, you're worthy, like there's a different life and shine that comes out of you, and it's just so beautiful. And when I take a picture of a woman, like I'll look at the photo and be like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful, and then she'll look at the photo, Tabitha, she'll be like, oh my gosh, zooms in, look at that
Right.
wrinkle under my eye, and I'm like, no,
Yes.
like
Look at
we
your
are all
vibrancy.
right. We're all human. We're all flawed in some level, right? But it's
Yeah.
that authenticity, that light that makes truly beautiful. And I feel so grateful that now I'm in a position where not only am I building financial independence for myself, right? Like I do really well. My husband and I, we do really well, but I have financial independence for myself. And I'm proud that I can work really hard, show my kids that, with hard work, you can accomplish something. I'm still a
Yep.
stay-at-home mom, Tabitha. I have kids who are 30, and I have a daughter who is 7 years old. I feel like I'm living in like this weird range of right of
Yeah.
just parenting. So I feel like I've seen both sides, but it never ends. Right, your parenting never ends, and it's so
Nope.
good that our oldest kids are seeing that, what, at her age, she's still going after goals. She's not
Yep.
limiting herself, right? Who am
Yes.
I to be walking on a runway again? I walked in Paris Fashion Week too, and that was a goal of mine. And it's just because I put myself out there. I'm nobody special. I've only put myself out there, and I think if you really truly want to do that for yourself, you could do it too. I'm not the exception, believe me. Far from it.
Amen. I agree 100%. This has been so awesome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for opening up. I know whenever I ask somebody what went wrong, you have to be very vulnerable and you're very authentic. So thank you so much. How can our audience find you? Is there one last thing that you want to share before we jump off?
Yeah. So one last word of advice is it's never too late to start something new. Don't don't be afraid to start. Just start. And you can find me on mrsjenniferlloyd.com and check me out there. I've got a press kit. I've got all kinds of information about how you can reach me, how you can book with me, and more about
Awesome.
my journey is all on my website. Thank you.
Awesome. And we'll have all those links in the description below. And one quick thing, how old were you, if you don't mind, when you first stepped on the stage for the pageant?
My very first time was when I was 27 years old.
Okay.
And then I went back on stage again when I was 40, 45, and now 46. Mm-hmm.
So ladies, I mean, that's a big gap. And I'm sure you had some babies in that time frame and you were
Oh, I
willing to
was
be like,
pregnant and breastfeeding. You bet. Yeah, I was
right?
right,
So get out there. When she says it's never too late, it's never too late. If you have this goal, and it doesn't even have to necessarily about winning the title, just do the thing, right? Do the
right,
thing, get out there. And so I
right.
love that about you. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Audience, thank you so much for joining us. And if you got any value from this and you have a girlfriend and you're like, she needs to hear this, share it with her. Be a giver, not a taker. Share this episode, share this podcast. We just want to give the spirit of hope and inspiration, inspiring people to get out of the what went wrong. Because if you're there right now, if you're struggling, remember, if you just stay persistent, the what will wrong will lead to the what went right. Just keep going, keep doing the thing, and you will reach it. Until next time, thanks, guys.